The essential building blocks for healthy sleep include feeding and play. And if you're like so many families reaching out to me, you're looking for a solution that helps your child sleep peacefully in their crib or their room on their own. And it's a goal that can feel very overwhelming for parents. But often we forget that our little ones will need this opportunity to practice this independence. And that's where we as parents can come in, not just by creating bedtime routines, but fostering these healthy habits outside of the bedroom and using yes spaces to not only simplify parenting, but help improve sleep. In our most sleep deprived moments, our children will teach us exactly what we need in order to learn and grow into who we were created to be. These are the loving lessons we will learn whether we were wanting to or not. I'm Irene, your sleep coach, and I'm on mission to educate parents on how to help their young children sleep. Welcome to the journey. Hello, and welcome to the Loving Lessons Learned podcast. I am super excited today to dive into yes spaces. This is actually one of my favorite things to talk about with parents, especially when it comes to improving sleep. And, I just want to share with you that in my Healthy Sleep Foundation, I have dedicated an entire module to something that really surprises families. We talk about play essentials. And when I meet with families for their one-on-one coaching sessions or in our group coaching sessions, we talk about play. It is that important to help promote healthy sleep. And today I'm going to be sharing how when you create these intentional wake windows and you create yes spaces during those wakeful hours, this can be a really powerful and yet simple tool to simplify parenting, support sleep, and also the side effect of this will end up being that you're going to build trust and respect in the relationship with your child. And this doesn't matter if your child is a newborn, an infant, a toddler, a preschooler. I would even say if you have an older child. I think this just works in how we can build healthy relationships. So I want to backtrack and give you a little backstory to understand a little bit more about these wakeful windows and yes spaces and how to use them to your advantage. Now, when I was doing my home daycare, I took on the responsibility that I was going to love and teach and encourage children that were in my care. And what I was learning was that I was really tired. I don't know about you, but if you're feeling like, oh my gosh, all day long, I feel like I'm having to engage and entertain my kiddos, sometimes that can be really exhausting as parents. The other thing that I was discovering at this time too was like, sometimes I didn't even really want to play with the kiddos. I was like, I can only play so much car racing or building blocks or with the dolls or with the teacups. Like sometimes I would expire. Some parents out there listening to this, you may love that. And that is great. There are different kinds of parents that we become for the children that we have in front of us. For me, I was like, oh my gosh, this is like sucking the ever loving, like goodness out of me right now. And so sometimes I would just get frustrated because I was like, oh my gosh, I have things I need to do and I can't do them. Well, those were some of the thoughts and feelings that I would have that would come up. But I will say there was also this time where I was like, oh my gosh, I love this so much. I can't get enough of it. And so I would go between these two extremes oftentimes. So then what ended up happening was I had an occupational therapist who came to my home for one of my little ones. And one of the things that she had said was, wow, like you're working really hard for these kiddos. I was like, well, I'm trying. And I think her comment really, she was trying to encourage me and for me to notice and observe what was actually taking place. I was doing a lot of the work for my kiddos. I felt like I had to entertain them all of the time. I felt like that was my responsibility. And one of the things that over our time where she was coming, I started to really recognize and understand was that play is actually our child's work and that I was there to just facilitate it. And it was an interesting concept as I started to give a little bit more space to these wakeful windows and look at how the kiddos were playing. And so I'm a school teacher, like I was trained in this and I knew it, but it sometimes in the thick of parenting, in the thick of what we're doing, sometimes we may not realize how we fall into these patterns and behaviors that might not be serving us. And that is one of the things that I've observed about so many families that I've worked with is that sometimes we accidentally find ourselves falling into patterns where we're entertaining our little ones rather than having meaningful engagement with them. And so it was very eye opening. And it also validated the fact that I was extremely tired because I spent a lot of my day playing, which actually wasn't my job. And so it really helped me shift perspectives. And that's one of the reasons where, in the Healthy Sleep Foundations course, I talk about the division of responsibility for sleep and what that means. And that's based on the Ellen Satter division responsibility for feeding is that we recognize what is our child's role and responsibility and what is our role and responsibility. And when I qualified for a study through Duke, it was amazing to recognize like what was I really supposed to be doing and what are my children supposed to be doing. And that's where I started to unpack and learn more about yes spaces. Now, when I went to school at Illinois State, I was learning about whole child development as a school teacher. That is what I was learning. And I did learn a lot and really resonated with the work of Magda Gerber. And so it was no surprise to me to come across Janet Lansbury, who really coined the term yes spaces. So I do want to give her full credit for it because I think it's just amazing. And the yes space means exactly what you are hearing. Yes, you can play and explore and learn here very safely. And it is a space where, as parents or caregivers, we want to step back and not say no because we've set it up in such a way that it is a safe space. One of the fundamental pieces to learn and understand is that Magda Gerber wanted to make sure that we knew and understood that when children were playing, we needed to offer a space that is 100% safe. And she even went to the extreme to share that this space, like you could leave your child here for 4 hours. Like if you got locked out of the house as the parent or caregiver, your child could be in this space safely. Now, they might not be happy and you might not be happy, but they would be safe. So when we think about what a yes space is, it is a place where our child could freely explore without having adult or others interrupt their play. And what I have found in learning and understanding so much more about yes spaces and implementing them myself is that it really provides an opportunity for learning to unfold. Sometimes parents are like, well, why are you talking about yes spaces? And why do we talk about play when I have hired you to talk about sleep for my child? So, one of the things that sometimes we don't recognize is that when our children are going to sleep, before they fall asleep, sometimes they just kind of play and get some of those wiggles out. Sometimes for some children, that might be the first time that they have had nobody to interrupt them. Think about that. Oftentimes, there's always a parent or a caregiver kind of watching, hovering, being around, managing what's happening. And so sometimes, if we can create these intentional yes spaces, our children have this opportunity to practice the skills that are developing in season of their life. And so then when it's time to transition from the play window into the sleep window, we've actually provided that opportunity for that playing and exploring to unfold that now they'll be ready to go to sleep. And so play windows can really be powerful in helping our sleep windows. Now, one of the things that I have observed from being in so many families' homes is that oftentimes we do have like a toy room or a playroom set up somewhere in the home. But one of the missing elements when thinking about creating a yes space is that it is enclosed. Sometimes maybe there's like a door or a gate that's going to allow our child to know that they have a limited space to play in. Now, I know some parents sometimes are concerned that, oh my gosh, isn't that limiting my child? Don't I need to provide them freedom and opportunity to learn and explore, throughout the house? When I think about a play space and what I'm talking about with the yes space, it is providing 1 to maybe 2 times during the day that you consistently go and allow your child to have time to play on their own. And this is where we're fostering some of that independent, self directed play. Now, if you're listening to this podcast, I'm going to encourage you to click on the blog post link so you can watch the video of the baby doing self directed play with a bowl. I remember when I first came across this on Janet Lansbury's website, I was thoroughly enamored of how long this child was able to play. And as I have been watching this, and I started practicing this during my daycare days, this is truly where I was learning so many loving lessons about my kiddos. I was learning about their preferences. I was learning about their frustrations. I was learning how they problem solve. I was learning how they were learning about self control and self discipline, all through this independent play. And what was required of me as the parent and as the caregiver in these roles was to just be. And that is sometimes one of the hardest things for us as parents, and to just be and observe and to notice. And one of the tools I share with families in my work that I do with them is the Breathe Love framework. And breathing love means we're going to be coming from a place of love and learning versus sometimes as busy parents, we can come in and be caught up in like frustration and sometimes fear and judgment. And so when we can pause and take a moment to breathe love and listen and learn what's happening versus bring in fear and judgment and not believe our little one is capable, oftentimes beautiful things unfold as we breathe love into these situations, as we can learn to be still and be with our little one as this play is unfolding. And this is how we really hone and build that trust and respect in our relationships. And this is, I think that sometimes this concept of a yes space can actually be really hard for us to understand when so much that we see on social media, influencers are trying for us to buy more and engage with our kiddos through different activities and whatnot. And one of the things that I really started to learn was like, how can I simplify parenting? Sometimes setting up a yes space, taking the time to organize the toys and create centers. I like to call them grab and goes. It took a little bit more effort up front, but it was so much easier to then implement because I had already made these decisions that was then able to support me in day-to-day flow with my kiddos. And so I dive into a lot of this in my course. I dive into this with families because sometimes those little simple things can make a huge difference. And when you go back to that video and you watch the baby playing with the bowl, what I really love is that she tracked the same child and you see the child later, 2 years later, putting together a puzzle. And you see how they are able to handle that time on their own. And one of the things I hear from parents oftentimes is like, my child won't do this. They need me all of the time. I can't leave the room. But a yes space, when we do implement it, it means we're going to create this closed space. We practice it every day. We have it be a part of maybe our morning window of play or maybe in the afternoon window of play. And I'm going to also share some pictures of the yes spaces that I had. I had one in my garage so that this way the kiddos were in an enclosed, safe space and that they were in there every day when we went outside. Because what that did was it allowed me to put the kiddos in a safe space where I knew they weren't going to wander off while I was setting up some of the toys or the centers outside. But I also used that space to make sure that it was age appropriate for everyone. So my infants and toddlers were, of course, in that gated space. And it allowed my preschoolers a little bit more freedom where they could handle it. And it also allowed me to engage with the different age groups as needed through the day. So I always think of parenting as this art and science. We're working on both pieces, and every day is going to look a little bit different. But by creating and committing to these routines where I already had it set up, I've already made a decision. And you'll see some of the tools in my favorite things tab. When you look at the toys that I recommend, there are a lot of open-ended, simple toys to allow children just the opportunity to explore. And I think that one of the things that makes parenting sometimes more challenging is that we can become inundated with all of the baby stuff, the infant toys, the toddler toys, and all the things. So, really figuring out and creating some systems will help you as you're implementing your flexible routine. And when you are creating your yes space, you're going to be able to allow your child's skills to unfold as they need them to. And, one of the things that really resonated for me with Magda Gerber was she had what was called RIE parenting. And if you're not familiar with RIE, it is Resources for Infant Educators. And I've included a link so you can look at some of the RIE basic principles. But I've used those to adopt those into my sleep principles because when we think about getting sleep in place in our homes, we want to not only think about how are we showing up as a rested, calm, and confident parent, how are we leading and guiding and allowing our child where we're trusting them through the routines, and are we creating environments that communicate our shared expectations? What does it look like when we're playing? What does it look like when we're eating? And then, of course, what does it look like when we're sleeping? And that allows us then to empower the learning process to unfold, and it empowers us as parents to step back and trust that our children can do something. And we recognize that everything is learnable and that they are capable. And then the P stands for we can play. We can play and have meaningful connection when we're engaging and helping our children through the transitions where they really need help. Because a child that eats well and sleeps well will then be allowed and be able to play well. Now, I know some parents may be wondering, well, my child will not let me be out of sight. And I know that. I know that there are some children who want to be with the caregiver all of the time, and so much of that depends on a child's temperament. But I will share with you that in all the years of teaching and doing the home daycare and being with families, that even children that are very strong-willed, maybe they have a fear of missing out, they're very spirited. They actually thrive when they have the opportunity to learn and play through yes spaces. I have seen this unfold many times. Now, is it easy? No. Like a lot of things in life, the things that we think will be easy are typically very challenging as we get started. And it's oftentimes because we need to make some decisions and organize ourselves, create environments that are going to support our routine. And that's where sometimes recognizing that we need support and accountability to help us through that process. And sometimes it's just a matter of tweaking the things that you're already doing. I can't tell you how many times when I'm working on a sleep plan with families, we're looking what is happening before we even start sleep. It's the little nuances in how we communicate that changes how our little ones will sleep. Because then by the time they're ready to sleep, they've already felt safe and secure. They feel satiated. They're able to settle and be comfortable. And they've built up enough sleep pressure to allow them to sleep. And yes spaces are a beautiful part of your flexible routine. because this can be an opportunity where you get to have a break. Like your child is, has been fed, they've slept well, now they can play well. And then that gives you an opportunity to go do what you need to do. Now, some parents might wonder, when do I start implementing this? I encourage all of my families right from the newborn season to get started. And for newborns, that might look like maybe you have a bassinet or a pack and play that a baby can be placed in. And that can be their safe yes space. And this oftentimes can help protect children from maybe a sibling or maybe a dog or any other pets that might be around. But it also gives you peace of mind that if I need to go to the restroom, maybe I need to go upstairs, throw in a load of laundry, or go get something from another room, that you know what, your child's okay. That leaves you with a peace of mind that everything is going to be okay. So practicing this from the beginning with newborns or infants and on makes it so much easier. When you're thinking about implementing this, I want you to look at your environment. I'm going to encourage you to take a look at some of the pictures I've included in the blog post to maybe give you some inspiration and encouragement to kind of see what that could look like in your home. But the key is to really think about creating that enclosed, safe space. And that means we are going to close the gate for our child. Now, if you are implementing this maybe with an older infant or maybe a toddler, it's going to take a little bit of time and practice to help your little one learn and understand the yes space. It's going to take you a little bit of time to unlearn the patterns and habits that you had created. Now, going back to my story with the OT, there was a transition of me not playing so much with the kiddos and setting them up with all of the things. It was me having to learn to sit through and allow some of the frustrations to unfold. And I love what Magda Gerber says. She says, if we can learn and struggle, we can learn to live. And one of the things that I discovered through this process as my little ones were building stamina, as they were learning to deal with some of those frustrations, is that because they had the chance to practice, it became easier. Now, I am by no means encouraging you to just leave your child to figure it out all by themselves for long periods. It takes a little bit of time, especially if we haven't been doing this, to make this shift. It's a mindset shift not only for us, but also for our children. So have those spaces where they're enclosed, they are feeling safe. Look at your toys and think about ways to simplify it. Now, I'm going to share with you a Trash to Treasures video. Now, you can sign up for that and you can take that training, learn and understand how you can use your recycle bin to create a really quick, easy to access center, a grab and go that you can use during your mealtime. And the reason why I bring this up is because oftentimes I have found that sometimes as parents, we overcomplicate it. And trying to figure out how we're going to work smarter and not harder is key. And so in the Trash to Treasures training, I'm going to just show you some of the things that I share with my families as like tips and tricks to help you with those wakeful windows. And again, the goal is to give back the responsibility of play to our child, and so that you can be there to engage in meaningful ways and help them through the transition, instead of feeling like you have to entertain your little one. And the other thing that's going to happen as a result of implementing yes spaces is that you're going to create a space for learning and exploring to happen. You're going to allow your child's skills to unfold, and you're going to see how your child's actually building self-discipline and that self-directed play, where you don't have to come up with the ideas. Your child does it all on their own, and they do it in a way that is age appropriate for them. I have seen newborns, infants, toddlers, and preschoolers engage with yes spaces very successfully. Now, if your child is at a daycare center, there's a good chance that they have some of that self-directed play. The classroom is one big yes space. It is set up in such a way that, yes, children can be safe and playing there. So if you're looking for some encouragement and inspiration, look into your child's daycare center. look into your playroom and see ways that you can set this up so that you can have a little bit more freedom. You can create this little structure and your children can have a great time learning. And then you can do the things that you need to do so that you can take care of yourself as you're taking care of your child. I know this is a lot to take in if learning about this concept of yes spaces, rethinking and looking your wakeful windows can be a little bit stressful for parents sometimes. But I just want to remind you that sometimes putting in the work up front, because there's going to be some decisions you make. This is the process I take families through sleep coaching. And we also look at what's happening during those play windows so that we can make them work for our child. Our child is going to have that opportunity to practice the skills in the season that they're in. And I'm going to encourage you to create an opportunity for your child to go into this yes space every single day. And if not, 2 times a day. And again, I find that morning window is a really great time to start practicing that. And it's also important to recognize, when I'm teaching families about flexible routine, we do need to come alongside and coach our little one and help build stamina so they know what to expect. So it is a lot more work for you as the parent up front. And I oftentimes will say it's, short-term sacrifice for long-term success. Because sometimes once we build that momentum, it makes everything else so much easier in our parenting. And that is truly how we can simplify parenting. And even in the chaotic moments, we are able to actually have peace and we can have joy through these moments because we've already made some of these decisions. And sometimes, you know what? We all have a bad day, but bad days can be made better when we have a plan, a system in place that's going to support us. Now, if you're wanting to learn more about yes spaces and how to make this happen, I'm going to encourage you to check out the Sleep Coaching Success programs because there's a full module dedicated to play essentials. And when we have our weekly family meetings, it's an opportunity for us to connect, not only about what's happening with sleep, sometimes talking through feeding, but also looking at playtime and sometimes making those changes little by little as you're creating a plan, as you're looking at your environment. I love to help families. We can take pictures, take a look at it, and figure out how do we organize and simplify the toys that you're using and having in your home. Because oftentimes those are the things that bring us overwhelm and anxiety. I think as a new parent, I didn't realize I had all my stuff to manage plus my children's stuff. And of course, that can be a little bit overwhelming and chaotic. And this is going to help your family have a little bit of structure and provide a whole lot more freedom for you than you even know. I will share with you that one of my favorite parts of the day was being able to meal prep in the morning time while the kiddos were playing. And they were ready for it because we connected through our meal times. We connected through the transitions of them being dropped off, of me connecting with my boys after they woke up. So there's these moments where we can play and have fun and have meaningful connection. And then our kiddos are ready to be off and playing. And if it sounds simple, it really can be. Oftentimes, what we don't realize that observe more and we do less. And do less, you'll enjoy more. And I love that quote from Magda Gerber because it reminds me of how we can work smarter and not harder in our parenting journey. So I hope that you can see how when we take time to allow our wakeful windows to support us for our sleep windows, where our children have that perfect time to practice the skills that they need to work on, they also have that opportunity to be alone. Because oftentimes what we don't realize is we're trying to have our child be alone in their room for sleep, but they never had a chance to practice it any other time. So yes, spaces are going to provide you those opportunities to practice that, whether your child's in a crib or in a bed, learning to be okay, learning to build their attention span, their focus, their self-control, their self-discipline. Allow them to initiate and create and problem solve on their own are some really amazing skills that are a side effect of when we can create intentional yes spaces that are going to help improve sleep in your home. And this is also going to provide the times for you to connect with your little one to be meaningful connections, helping them bridge through all of the routines, going through the morning routine, when you're changing things throughout the day, when you're leaving the house, later on when you're doing diapers, pottying, and then also transitioning to bedtime. Those are the times that our children really need us to help them bridge that learning. But when we look at that play window, we can recognize that that space is available for our child to have fun and explore and allow the learning to unfold. So I'd love to hear your thoughts. Leave a comment down below and let me know what you think about this concept of yes spaces. And let me know if you are using yes spaces and how it has impacted your family and how it works for you, your home. So until next time, sweet dreams. Thanks for tuning into today's show. You can see all of the details and show notes below. And as you go out into your day, I hope that you'll make it your mission to be calm, confident, and rested as you lead today. Sweet dreams.